Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss narrative writing and regulatory submissions that are done after case processing or as a part of case processing. After completing all the different tabs previously in the last two sessions, today we will start with the narrative writing that comes in the safety tabs that are a part of case processing, and we will move to that. So narratives are usually added in the analysis tab of the Argus Safety Database. And this is how analysis tab look like. Okay. So before writing a narrative, we should understand what is narrative writing or what are the narratives. Narratives are basically the story that the regulatory authorities or the regulators read. It is basically a bridge between data and medical coding. Okay. It is very essential for signal detection, regulatory review, and case quality management. It's like if a narrative is unclear, the case loses its credibility overall. Narrative has to be clear. Okay. So, what is the anatomy of a good narrative? The narrative includes various sections. That is basically introduction, which includes patient, indication, history information, event description, onset date of the event, seriousness and outcome, product details, dose information, start and stop date of the therapy, and the de-challenge and re-challenge information. Then it contains concomitant medications and different laboratory tests, and then outcome and reporter's comment. Okay. So for narrative writing, I have a separate formula, or let's say a chronological flow, which I called as WWW and O. It basically who, what, when, and outcome. Okay. So we will quickly move on to narrative. I'll write a sample narrative in front of you. Okay. And you can ask any question that you may have. So narrative will look like this. To write a proper narrative, it is like general description that what I just told you, that is introduction part. Okay. So in introduction, we will start with the type of case report. This is a sample narrative for a spontaneous case report. Okay. So this spontaneous case report, that is report type, initially received on this date. Then after type, we will move on to who reported it. Reported by a patient. And describe the occurrence of the event. Basically, the patient reports that she also lost vision while receiving the drug XYZ. Okay. And the drug's indication is a wet macular degeneration. Okay. We can also mention the age of the patient over here, or the gender. Then moving on to concomitant medications or concurrent conditions, or let's say history going on with the patient. The concurrent medical conditions included Crohn's disease, blood cholesterol increase, and deafness. And for the treatment of concurrent medical conditions, the patient was taking these concomitant medications. These are drug names. Okay. So then we move on to the summary, the basic summary of the event, that on this date the patient started the product at an unspecified dose and frequency. And after taking the drug, the summary will include what happened. Okay. Like I told you who, what he took, when, now coming to when. So after taking the drug on an unknown date, the patient experienced this event. Okay. And outcome. What is the outcome of the event and what is the result of the event? Like at the time of the report, was the event resolved or was the event ongoing? Okay. And after that, we will include the lab data information if there is any. And then, is there any action taken with the drug? And causality information, if it was given or not. Okay. So, this is a basic structure of narrative that we include. For narratives, we have to follow certain rules that are: first, chronology. What happened and when did it happen? It should follow a chronology. Like the patient experienced three different events or incidents on three different dates. So, what comes first, then second, then third? Proper chronology is required. And then we have to like avoid duplicacy of information. Like we should not mention repeated information, and to report medical terminology. We should like try to use like medra terms for a better understanding. Okay. And the link of the product and the event should be clearly specified, like whether the event was related to the drug. Okay. And what is mentioned within the tabs, like what event and products we are coding in the product tab and what event we are coding in the event tab, it should be aligned with the narrative, or the narrative should be aligned with the tabs. There should be no discrepancy or no change in terms. Like the event description, as mentioned in the tab, should be clearly like aligned in the narrative as well. Okay. Narratives are important in view of aggregate reporting as well. Then after completing the narrative, we there are two ways. Uh, Once after completing the narrative, you have to like you can write a narrative manually or Word file or anywhere, or we can auto generate narratives within the database itself. Okay. Moving on, once the narrative is completed, we will save the narrative within Argus, and then we will move on to the next step. For today's session, we the next step is regulatory reporting. Like once the narrative is ready, once it tells our story, it's time to make sure that we are submitting it to the right authority and like by which guidelines the case was processed. Okay. So moving on to regulatory submissions within Argus, it is the regulatory reports tab. Okay. So the purpose of regulatory reports or regulatory reporting in case processing, it makes sure that the valid cases like the actual ICSRs are transmitted correctly to the regular health authorities. There are three types of reports: expedited, non-expedited, and periodic reports. Okay. And narrative plays an important part in this because usually narrative is the part where manual efforts are included and the most chances of human oversights will be there. To understand the cases or to regulatory reports, you have to understand all the tabs that we have to follow. And for this, you need to like have a brief understanding of all the different functionalities of the different tabs. Moving on, this starting from here. Okay. You see this NF mentioned. These NF parts are called as null flavors. These are regulatory terminologies which are very important to enter data. Okay. So different authorities had different requirements to be filled in the null flavors. These null flavors are present in every tab, starting from General tab, then Patient tab, Event death information, lab data, and moving on to the Product tab and Event tab as well. So these null flavors are important to be entered and entered correctly. So the task for you all is to read what are null flavors and how they are implemented by the different regulatory authorities. Moving on to the regulatory reporting. The term that I used, expedite report or non-expedited report. What is expedited reports? Basically, in post-marketing surveillance, there are two types of expedited report, 7-day or 15-day. Clinical trials also follow the same timeline, 7 days and 15 days. There are certain different timelines that are followed by different manufacturers and different MAH as aligned with the regulatory authorities. Non-expedite reports are submitted. There are again, as per the different regulatory authorities, 30 days, 90 days, and again, periodic reports from 90 days to a year. Okay. So nowadays, we will move on to automation part. Nowadays, in previous years, what used to be done was these reports were scheduled manually. But in the present day scenario, these tabs are automated. And whenever a case is entered in this, like whenever information is entered in the product and event tab, like what is the product and what is the event and what is the causality, the event assessment from here. So it triggers a reporting rule scenario, like whether the case meets the expedite criteria or non-expedite criteria. Okay. So this is where automation is being implemented within the safety databases. Whenever a case meets any expedite criteria, the reports will be auto-scheduled. You see, it is mentioned as auto-scheduled. And there are two different authorities. One is EMA and one is FDA. And there are the types of like forms that are submitted. We are submitting SIOMS 1 to EMA and we are submitting MedWatch to US FDA. And also here, we are submitting SIOMS 1 to FDA. It is a sample report, but we have to follow the correct requirements of every regulatory authority that are for which we are processing cases. Okay. In many organizations or many places, still these reports are being submitted as manual, and you will learn a lot of different terminologies when you read about it. You can go to the official websites of EMA and FDA. There are regulatory guidelines, like ICSR case processing guidelines, in which all the details are mentioned. Every information about pharmacovigilance is public. It's just that we should understand that where we have to look to gain the knowledge. Okay. And same goes in the analysis tab. Nowadays, using AI models or automation, we can auto generate narratives. There are multiple models that can be implemented within the safety databases, which can auto populate or auto generate the narrative information. Okay. So this is how we write a narrative and we submit reports. There is a functionality within the safety databases, not only Argus, within LSMV and Viva as well. There's a functionality where we can evaluate the case before submitting that all the information is correct. Okay. We can generate a draft SIOMs, we can generate a draft MedWatch to review that all the information is correct before like finalizing it for submission. We can validate the case, all the tabs. We can check the validity that we have followed all the guidelines according like correctly. So after making sure that the data is consistent and all the validity checks are there, the case can be submitted to regulatory authorities. As a fresher or as a new joiner to the pharmacovigilance field, this information is more than sufficient for you to know. And for the other people who are already in the field, like 1 year or 2 year, who are not even able to understand the regulatory reporting, because nowadays in what is happening in big MNCs is that there are different teams who perform different activities within a single case. Like there will be a team who will perform case intake and triage. There is a team who will perform data entry. There's a team who will perform medical review. There's a team who will perform quality review. And there's a different team who will submit the case to the regulatory authorities. So it is important to understand all the aspects of case processing to have a hands-on knowledge or to be interview ready. It is very important for the people with who have started already in the field, that is they have 1 to 2 years of experience and they don't know how to submit a case or how regulatory authorities function. So before closing out today's session, I'll give you a quick recap of what we have discussed from data entry, case intake, narrative writing, and regulatory reporting. So starting from the general tab, like after creating a case, we move on to the general tab. What is case intake or triage? In simple term, case triage is entering PDER information. That's the short form that I given to the validity criterias. The case triage person, what will they will do is they will enter patient, drug, event, and reporter information in the case, and they will route the case to the next workflow for data entry. The data entry person will enter all the remaining information within the case that is present in the source document and is relevant to the patient or relevant to the case. Then the medical reviewer will assess the causality information. Then the quality check is done. And then next step, the case is routed to the regulatory reporting team or regulatory authorities if it meets the expedite criteria or like if it is non-expedite or expedited accordingly. Okay. To understand, like the whole purpose of this Argus or safety series, database series is to understand the difference between Argus and like different safety databases, why safety databases exist, and how we process a real world case scenario. In the next video, I'll be showing a difference between Argus, LSMV, and Viva Vault or Viva Safety. See, the safety databases are used to, again, like a reminder for all of you to report the data in a standardized way. And that's the whole purpose of writing a narrative. Like you are given a case document and you have to extract the summary, like to write a story. And to write a story, again, we need to explain it very clearly. These are the different workflows that are being followed in Argus or any safety database. These workflows vary from team to team or project to project or company to company, what they are following or what they want to do. There are different guidelines for data entry and processes for different types of cases. Like for post marketing, spontaneous or solicited, they follow almost same approach. Literature cases, they have a different requirements of entering the author information. Then regulatory cases. Sometimes what happens is, what are regulatory cases? This is an interview question. Sometimes what happens is some healthcare professional or some patient even they report the cases directly to the regulatory authorities, or regulatory authorities like come to know about any report from any identified or unidentified source. So the regulatory authorities can forward the case to the MH, or it is the responsibility of the MH to check the regulatory authorities database whether they have received any cases for their products or not. So regulatory cases have different guidelines to process within the safety database because those cases are already in a standard format. What kind of information will be extracted from them? It depends on the company that they are like the which is processing the case. Then coming on to clinical trial cases. Clinical trial cases are like the tab structure is similar, but in clinical trials there's two different terms, that is blinded or unblinded studies. These are the different things that add on to clinical trial cases. They follow a different approach, they follow a different timeline, but the tabs will be similar. Okay. Then there are many types of case report that are pregnancy cases. There are patient support program cases. Okay. So as a person who wants to enter in the field, this information is more than sufficient. These, like, the purpose of this guided session was to give you all a brief understanding how the safety databases are being used in a real world scenario. So you have to stay tuned for the next coming session in which I'll be showing you the difference between Argus, LSMV, and Viva Safety, like how they like what is their interface and how they are different from each other. Basically, nowadays it is up to like how much automation is being implemented within all the safety databases. Some companies are there like they want to automate all the processes and they have to reduce the manual efforts. Okay. Now everybody asks a question that AI is being implemented, it will reduce jobs. It will, let me be honest with you all, it will indeed reduce some jobs for entry, like which are at the entry level. Because case processing, the tabs we have discussed, the case processing, case intake, data entry, these all can be automatically done using different AI models. Entering patient, drug, event, reporter information using AI is possible, and some companies are already following this. Coding the rest of the information, such as different products and different events and different history terms, is also possible using AI. But AI is not fully dependent. That is why many companies are dependent on the human input. But to reduce the oversight and manual efforts, companies are moving towards artificial intelligence. The role of medical reviewer is always important, and the quality reviewer, who is a quality reviewer? You guys will be the quality reviewer when you have 1 or 2 years of experience and you have enough knowledge or understanding of the processes. But you don't have to be scared that AI will replace you, because AI will be there or no. The correct statement is AI is already here. I myself worked on few AI models and how they are implemented in safety databases, but it is not ready to entirely take up the human in the loop. Some companies do process cases using chatbots or like models. Some companies are working on developing their own databases, which is completely artificial intelligence, so that they can replace the traditional safety databases. In the next coming 10 years scenario, it will be very different approach to process cases, because for many companies or the manufacturers, pharmacovigilance activities are difficult. They have to like manufacture the products and then they have to highlight the shortcomings of their product to the regulatory authorities. That is why everybody is moving towards artificial intelligence to reduce manual input, to avoid errors. Manufacturing will always be there, pharmacovigilance will always be there, and not all the companies can like develop a, let's say, completely automated setup to process cases. So the scenario will change starting like in the coming 2 to 3 years. It will be different. There will be more artificial intelligence models. There are multiple softwares being implemented which can like evaluate source documents, which can evaluate causality as well. Many companies are using a different software to like analyze literature source documents. Literature monitoring is a very integral part of pharmacovigilance because, again, we come out of college, we publish research articles, and any research article which include a patient and drug will be a part of some company's literature search. Like, let me give you an example. If any healthcare professional is conducting a study on any patient using any company's product, and they are publishing their study results, it is the responsibility of that company to search the local journals or the global journals to find out any reported events related to their products. Okay. So nowadays there are many different models being used to reduce the human effort. But again, we all have to live to learn with it, like live, learn and grow. Because AI is already here. AI cannot replace humans, but it will reduce the human efforts. And when the human efforts is reduced, company will again reduce the number of entry level jobs. It is nothing to be scared, but if you know, like whenever you are going for an interview, if you know that AI cannot replace you, or you can present your value to be better than an artificial intelligence model, that will be in your benefit only. And that's what the recruiters are looking for, what you brings to the table. Okay. So that is it for today's session about narrative writing and regulatory reporting and case processing. See, there are many different aspects of regulatory reporting which are like, if I sit here and explain, you will not be able to understand because the different regulatory authorities have different guidelines. We will continue the learning in different, like, I'll make a series for different regulatory authorities, and you can stay tuned for the next coming sessions. In the next video, I'll be showing you the difference between the different safety databases that are being used globally. Okay. If you have any questions, you can let me know and we can discuss in the next video. I'll
Sir,
be,
I have a question
yes, please.
regarding rechallenge and rechallenge.
Okay.
There may be some drugs which, if we go for rechallenge, maybe they will cause more harm to the patient and or they may cause serious adverse effects in the patient
Okay.
after rechallenge. So what we should do for them? We should
Sir,
go for rechallenge or not?
sir, we have to, like, what is required in that particular scenario, that is, that will depend on the case that we are following or handling. There are drugs which cause side effects, then we have to report it. Treating the patient is a different, like, it's a doctor's job. We have to report the events, the drugs which are like causing the adverse events. We have to report that to the regulatory authorities, and it will be up to the regulatory authorities to take a decision. The scenario, like the latest scenario in India about that uh, cough syrup that was banned recently, which killed many children.
Yes, sir.
So again, that's where PV comes into picture. We have to report it to regulatory authorities, and the regulatory authorities and the government will take the decision whether the drug stays in the market or not.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that is it for today's session. And We will be having a question and answer session related to the Argus. Again, there will be a live session on YouTube only. You can all join and you can put in your questions and I'll try to answer everyone. Okay. Stay tuned for the next video of difference between all the safety databases. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.